Wow, what a day. We would have thought this after yesterday when it was Baltic. It's actually all right sitting in the sun, but you know, when you get into the shade, it is a bit cooler. But the sun is absolutely glorious. So I'm on the now to talk about Fife Buy to Let market on the rise, as returns have risen by 40.3% in the last 5 years. I'll say that again. Fife Buy to Let market is on the rise as returns have risen by 40.3% in the last 5 years. 40.3% return in the last 5 years. That's amazing. So Fife landlords are becoming progressively more self-assured about expanding their rental portfolio. As the Fife rents rise, mortgage interest rates fall, and demand for decent rental properties outstrips supply. It's huge out there. I mean, if you look on just now on Zoopla or Rightmove or that, you can see straight away, I think there's only like something about 80 or 90 properties up for rent right throughout Fife itself. That's every single letting agent has only got about 80 or 90 properties on their books in total. That's the whole lot of us. So there's not much to go around, therefore rents will continue to rise as people try to scramble towards them. It's interesting as well, I put another post on last night that salary rises have gone up 8.3% in the last year as well. Some people will be saying, wait a minute, I've not seen that rise. I only got 2. Where's my rise at 8.3%? But that's true, as skills, so it's an interesting one to read as well. I'll maybe talk about that later on in the week. The number of reports nationally would suggest that a third of UK portfolio landlords, that's landlords with more than one rental property, are actually actively looking to expand their portfolios in the next 12 to 18 months. Which would mean locally, for us, that 2,521 Fife portfolio landlords are looking to add to their rental portfolios by the end of 2022. If you're a Fife landlord out there, are you looking to add? Are you one of these people looking to add to your rental portfolio by the end of 2022? Well, I certainly am, and I've just bought another one last week. So I'm certainly adding to my portfolio just now because it's kind of like the planets. I've no bought for about 10 years, and then all of a sudden it's like the planets have all aligned to actually say that, yeah, this is the time to invest in property. The pandemic has had a substantial change to what we want from a home. Many people think that relates just to homeowners, but it couldn't be further from the truth. It actually relates to the tenants as well, because you know, being a tenant is sometimes a choice. A lot of people out there choose to have a tenancy, and it's the reason for that is because it gives them flexibility in their requirements. They're not committed to a mortgage, they're not tied down to a house purchase. So therefore, if they need to move within the next 1 or 2 years, they don't have all the rigmarole and all the costs of going through in order to sell again or buy again, which could for some people could be the best part of £10,000. So now, if your rent for the next 2 years is round about £5,000 a year, then that allows you to get away with just the same amount of money and actually have that certainty that you're not committed to all these costs. So that's the good point. And plus the fact, if you're a tenant, if anything happens to your property, you immediately just phone your letting agent, your landlord, and they've got a requirement to fix it. Job done. You have no responsibility to fix anything within the property and the structure of the property, like the electrics, like the plumbing, like the heating, like the roof, none of that stuff. So you don't have that obligation as well with being a tenant. So that's one of the benefits, another benefit to being a tenant. Homeowner or a tenant may have us spend a lot of time away from places of work. Many office workers are actually facing the outlook of a combination of working from home as well as the office, meaning really a change in what people will look for in their home itself. And people, that's what I mean, including tenants, are looking for larger properties with extra rooms for office space and decent sized gardens, or to be closer to outside green space as well. This is why there's a lot of demand in the East Nuke areas and in the coastal villages as well, Leven particularly, and along the coast. St Andrews, you know, bit of high price, but there's still a lot of demand in there as well, because people want to have this experience of living beside the coast now. I once got told that the phrase "every cloud has a silver lining" actually comes from that point, whereas the most prosperous areas in our country tend to be on the coast. Because it's by the sea. So that's where that "every cloud has a silver lining" comes from. So let's take a look at the scores in the doors as to why Fife landlords are on the up. Well, for example, Fife house prices are up 22.6% on the 5 years than 5 years ago, so up 22.6%. It's predicted that the prices of property will go up by 20% in the next 4 years. Now think about that for a second. If you're not on the property ladder, can you afford to take an increase of 20% in house prices in the next 4 years? So potentially it's maybe worth actually considering getting on the property ladder. If you're looking to sell, if property prices have gone up 22.6% in the last 5 years, what options does that give you? Especially if you're downsizing, because if you're selling a lot bigger property, you're getting a lot more money proportionally than you are when you're buying. So you're actually releasing a lot of capital and equity in order for possibly retirement or possibly to do something you really want to do. I had the other day somebody actually wants to buy a motorhome. It's going to cost them £50,000. And I says, I'm the person to get you that. Because some first-time buyers are being outpriced of the market due to the house price rises, they are being forced back into the rental market, and that adds extra demand. And 1 in 10, this is it, 1 in 10 Fife house sellers who in the last 12 months have had to go into rented accommodation instead of buying, and this has created an increase in demand, meaning that rents today are 9.3% higher than a year ago. Now, I just said to you that salary rises have gone up 8.3% across the UK than a year ago, and rents have gone up 9.3% higher than a year ago. So it shows you there's a disparity and there's not an equilibrium there. And 17.7% rents have gone up than 5 years ago. So rents have gone up 17.7% 5 years ago. Hence the reason why I think the government's thinking about rent caps. It's maybe no great thing. It's great for the short term, but look what the gas prices thing and the utility things have happened. All these price caps that have been put in place that everybody have committed to has seen all these companies go bust because they've had to commit to these price caps, yet the price of the energy they're supplying has actually gone up dramatically, and they're at a loss-making position now because of it. So that policy applied to the rental market might have the same effect later on as maybe interest rates rises and maybe cost rise as a result as well. But because there's caps on rents, there's not enough money to actually do any repairs to the property, which could leave a landlord having a void, therefore getting no rent, therefore spiralling costs, therefore ultimate repossession. So be careful about what you wish for with rent caps. The average rent in Fife today is £637. Now I started 30 years ago, and I remember the average rent 30 years ago was about £300. So it's gone up double than 30 years ago. I mean, that's quite double for 30 years isn't really that much. So it's probably becoming back more to an equilibrium, and it's maybe accelerating faster just now to come back to realign where it should have been in the first place. I'd be interested to know your thoughts on that, actually. In previous articles on the Fife property market, I was talking about the lack of properties to buy, yet the issue has always been there for the British rental property market. So let's take a look in the supply terms and rents. Would it surprise you that the number of private rented homes in the UK has fallen in the last 12 months by just over 2.5%? So I think on balance, I'm sure it was around about 20%, maybe about 10 years ago, of the UK housing stock was private rented. Now that's dropped in the last 12 months by 2.5%, which is a restriction in supply when you think about it. There is more people wanting rented accommodation, so there's more demand, therefore, guess what? There's a recipe for a boom. So I think that's one of the reasons. So why has this happened? Well, one of the reasons that many accidental landlords have used the housing market to sell the property for a good price. That means the supply of available rental properties has decreased. The perfect storm of increased demand and lower supply, with many Fife tenants competing for those larger Fife properties and Fife homes, and may find the Fife rental prices will pick up even more over the next year. But what about buy-to-let mortgages for Fife landlords? Well, the banks all but withdrew the buy-to-let lending in the first lockdown, yet since the last summer, things have settled down, and during 2021, there has been a mortgage price war. Banks are basically throwing money at you to lend. They have got money in abundance. Unlike the credit crunch, there is money flowing everywhere just now. So Fife landlords can borrow 60% of their value of the buy-to-let property on a 2-year fixed rate at 1.18% with platform. 1.18%. You can borrow 60% of your property. And now interest only, that's going to be hardly anything. £100,000, that means it would be £1,180 a year, which is £100 a month. So £100 a month for a £100,000 property, which would probably rent for about £500 to £600 a month. Wow. You do the math. And even those with 20% deposit, those borrowing 80% loan to value, can get a 2-year fixed rate deal from the mortgage works at 2.49%. And those looking to be fixed for a little longer can get a 1.44 from the mortgage works and a 1.79 at a 75% loan to value from Santander. But remember, it must be noted that some of them have fees to these mortgages, like you've got high arrangement fees in the first place. And you must take advice from a qualified mortgage advisor before deciding which mortgage is best for you. More than happy to refer you to the right people. I've been in this business for 30 years myself. I know exactly who does the job perfectly and who does it really well and who understands the dynamics of this market and to get the best deal for you. So is now the best time to invest in Fife Buy to Let property? Well, if you're attracted to invest in Fife Buy to Let, it's vital to do your homework first, particularly if you're new to the game. When estimating and expecting rental returns or investment, capital growth, yields, many Fife landlords look to what has happened with house prices and rental prices. Yet past performance does not always deliver what future will guarantee. So smart Fife landlords will speak with agents like ourselves and other people in Fife as well, prudently researching the Fife property market to discover what types of properties are in high demand, are in short supply from tenants. So whether you're a landlord or not, and you're looking for advice, and you're a landlord of ours, or you're not a landlord of ours, or you're an investor, or you're considering it, please feel free to drop me a message here. You can message me direct, you can email me, you can contact us on our usual numbers, which is the 01333 421 774 or 01334 654 221. And you can just ask to have a wee chat about your buy-to-let property or possibly your investment strategy and what you want to do. We'll point you in the right direction. If we've not got the answers, more than happy to do that. After all, I've done it for the last 30 years myself. I understand the dynamics and what to do and how to do it. And until next time, guys, if you've got any further questions, please feel free to put them in the comments here. Take time to share the post as well. You never know who's out there looking for advice, and this would probably help them in doing that. And until next time, guys, I'm Jim Parker for Fife Properties TV.